And we're live. Hello, everybody. I am Rena Michaelis, and today I'm with Modwayne. Modwayne, hello.
Hello. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Want to talk about your channel or?
Um, well, I do have my own channel, and I try to talk about all sorts of things, political correctness, and um, well, actually, that's the rough of it, isn't it? I mean, political correctness in combination with SJWs, or political correctness in combination with feminists, or and all of that, really. Reality. Maybe I should say I'm talking about reality. Yeah.
Okay, and I found this article, PC Gone Mad, criticizing migration could become criminal offense under new plan. A leading MEP has warned EU citizens they could be jailed for criticizing migration policies if a new UN agreement is acted upon.
Yeah, and they have been talking about this in Marrakesh, if I'm not mistaken. Now, thank God there have been several countries already saying we're not going to sign this. There have already been countries saying we're not even going to attend to the meeting. But yeah, this is very scary indeed, because criticism indeed can be considered a crime. So the worst part is that in America, you guys have freedom of speech. So yeah, you're allowed to critique everything. In Europe, that's not the case. I mean, we pretend to have freedom of speech, but we don't.
Well, our freedom of speech is in our Constitution.
Hmm.
It's part of the our founding fathers put it in the Constitution. Mm. The U the UN Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration seeks to make immigration a universal human right. When really, I don't believe that it is another person's right to be a part of another person's country.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, if you look at the way the United Nations work, this right only goes one way. So people have the right to go into any Western world country, um, but the other way around. So, for example, saying, you know what, I'm going to move to Nigeria and find myself a nice, good piece of ground where I can dig for minerals. That's not allowed. Well, it is allowed, but the whole thing with the migration thing, the global compact for safe and orderly migration, is that it's, how do you call it? It's not a law, so people aren't bound to it. I mean, it's a suggestion for people to live by. The thing is, however, that in the past they've done stuff like this before, and the countries that do live by it, on average, are the Western countries, and the countries that do not live by it are the other ones. But the non-Western countries will use this to say, but you signed this, therefore you should let us in. But if you then say, well, you signed this too, therefore you should let us in, they're going to say, yeah, but it's non-binding. So
Yeah, I still just don't like it at all. Immigration, a universal human right. Like, people have the right to go to England. People have the right to just go to. I don't like it at all because it's not their land.
no, and it's going to make things harder for refugees. Actually, I mean, they're going to suffer the most because they're trying to get away from certain crime, they're trying to get away from certain situations, but those situations will now follow them. We've already seen this, for example, with Syria and Germany. Lots of Syrian refugees went to Germany because they tried to get away from the extremists that are destroying the country, but only to find those same extremists in Germany themselves. I mean, there have been several refugee centers that have been burned down because of people rioting within the refugee centers.
Yeah, like if I was like, let's just say that I was a rape victim or whatever, and I like went into like I ran into a shelter, it wouldn't make sense to allow the rapist into the exact same shelter, the very person I'm trying to get away from.
Yeah. And what we've seen, for example, well, Germany, I already told you. In Sweden, we saw cases like that as well, where refugee women actually got raped by refugee men. But yeah, I mean, they're all refugees, so I mean, it's not as if that refugee then goes to prison because no, he's just a refugee. He doesn't know any better. There's something inherently wrong when the whole idea of helping people becomes equal to not allowing to say anything negative about those people so they can misbehave in any simple way they can find feasible. I mean, obviously, it's going to hurt the populace of a country, but it's also going to hurt the refugees that actually try to get away from all that madness. Because the refugees come, but there will be people coming with the refugees who aren't really refugees, but now can't even be stopped anymore. I mean, at this point in time, we're trying to stop them a little bit, but under the United Nations Global Compact, you can't even stop them because it's a right for them to come.
Yeah, it seems like they're saying that all brown people are refugees.
But no, well, they're not saying all brown people, they're saying all people. But they mean all brown people. That is correct. Because a white person, no. Just look at how the media has been treating the African farmers in the last 2 years. They're not considered refugees in most countries because they're white. But the thing is, they're not refugees from South Africa because they're white. They're refugees because they're getting murdered. But you see, that's the thing. They're trying to create a narrative. It's not about reality anymore. It's about the story. And the story is, oh no, all refugees should be welcome. And all refugees are people who are minorities, oppressed, in fear of their life. But they can't be white because I don't even know why.
You know, this is where I agree with Temple. Temple says that, you know, these progressives, they are white supremacists, but with a guilty conscience.
Well, I'm not sure if they're white supremacists. I think, and this is true for the European Union, and this is also true for the United Nations, the people in power aren't like you or me, citizens. They are so far away from, well, reality. They're so far. It's like Hollywood movie stars telling America that you should take in refugees, and that America shouldn't have a border because why do you need a border anyway? But then ignore to mention that they live in gated communities. So yeah, one set of rules for you and one set of rules for them.
Yeah, like how come J.K. Rowling doesn't open up her mansion to the refugees?
Yeah, good question. The only reason I can say is because she's a hypocrite. And a filthy one at that, because she blames everyone else for not doing it. But most people in the UK don't have a castle, and most of the people don't have more than 20 rooms. She does, but she kind of likes to tell how the other people are the ones that need to fix it. And the thing is, what I'm saying now could be considered criticism against migration, and therefore I'm not allowed to say it anymore. I'm not sure if the Netherlands signed it, actually. I hope not. Marcel de Graaf is a Dutch MEP, and he was quite clear on, this is the video embedded, by the way, he was quite clear why the Dutch shouldn't, or rather, why anyone shouldn't sign the United Nations Global Compact. It's kind of funny. The United Nations has been driving a wedge into the world and them. And they try to move themselves further away from reality and the world they claim to protect. And it's getting worse and worse. I mean, the last time any organization talked about basically what this is boiling down to were the Russians and the Saudis. I think in the 70s, that movement towards certain countries should always be possible. And if it is, then sure. And if it's not, then you have a reason why you wouldn't allow Americans into your country, but America should never have a reason not to allow people into their country. So it's not the first time they've gone here, but it's the first time it came from the United Nations as is.
Okay, I'll continue. I would like to say some words on the Global Compact on Migration. On the 10th and 11th of December, there will be an international Congress in Marrakech, Morocco. The participating countries are set to sign this agreement, and although this joint agreement is not binding, it is still meant to be the legal framework on which the participating countries commit themselves to build a new legislation.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. Oh, Gesundheit. It's kind of funny though, because at this point in time, I can remember 2 Danish girls being killed in Morocco not too long ago. And imagine this, if this global compact would come through, the killers of that girl may seek refuge in Denmark. It might seem hyperbolic, but the fact is that it is true. Ah, I thought I heard myself.
Yeah, I just muted the screen. I just wanted to see if there was anybody in chat.
Not yet. I'm looking at it, but there are 4 people watching. I have no idea who those 4 people are, so I'm going to say hi there, 4 people. But then again, one of those 4 people is probably me, because, as I said, I'm watching at it as well. So let's see.
Right now it says one basic element of this new agreement is the extension of the definition of hate speech. The agreement wants to criminalize migration speech. Criticism of migration will become a criminal offense. I mean, that right there to me is a bit scary. Like, you cannot criticize migration.
Nope. And it's not a bit scary. It's fucking scary. It's a huge problem, and I don't understand that there are actually Western countries going along with this. Canada already signed it. I mean, Canada signed it before the meetup was. They were so, well, most Canadians are not in favor of it, but Trudeau was so much in favor of it that they actually signed it before they got there. Not quite sure how that works, but yeah, there you are.
Wow. criticizing of migration will become a criminal offense. I mean, it's like, what if, I mean, I've already heard about how the migrants were causing troubles in those countries. They were already having troubles. So it's kind of like, even if you want to speak out and address the problem, you can't. I mean, the only thing you could go with is if a lot of people complain in unison, because if people complain in unison, then they can't jail everybody, you know. They just can't put everybody in jail.
Yeah, well, there you have it. They're going to try something. And the thing is, define, I mean, they already called it hate speech, which is nothing really. But here's the funny thing. Criticism of migration will become a criminal offense too. Define criticism. As I said, J.K. Rowling keeps pushing for other people to open their doors. I'm criticizing J.K. Rowling for not opening her doors to take in refugees, which in itself can also be seen as criticism against migration. And therefore, I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to say this. That's funny how that goes, because that means that the, yeah, how should I call them? The political correct, useful idiots can tell us what to do, and we're not allowed to criticize them, because as soon as we criticize the useful idiots for being useful idiots, they can use our criticism as a way to stop us from talking, because that's criticism of migration.
Yeah. Media outlets that give room to criticism of migration can be shut down. This is like Orwell's 1984. I mean, if Adolf Hitler, you know, says something like the media can't be criticize certain acts, you know, it's like, I remember I saw a video where they put Trump and Hitler together, and Trump was saying the media will be shut down, and they took Adolf Hitler saying a certain demographic will shut their lying mouths. But like right here, I am reading the media that give room to criticism of migration will be shut down. There is like, this isn't even freedom of the press anymore.
Nope. There is no freedom of speech on this topic. That's why I'm calling them useful idiots, because in the end, this can be used to silence all speech. And I'm not only saying that it can be used to silence all speech, I'm pretty sure it will be, because that's the only way they can survive. That's the problem with the European Union right now. That's the problem with people like Hillary Clinton, with the political correctness only can go one direction, and the direction of political correctness is silence. And that's where we're going. And the worst part is with this, they're working together with the most heinous, how do you call them, governments in the world. And it's not so much that they work together with them, because I understand that you need to work together with everyone in the hope to change the world. But you have countries like Saudi Arabia being on a human rights panel. Saudi Arabia doesn't have human rights. It's not even that they have different ones than, for example, America or the Netherlands or any European country. They don't have them at all. There are rights for certain humans, and other humans don't have rights at all. And this is on the human rights panel from the very organization that tells you migration is a human right. Okay, so when we are all allowed to go, for example, to Nigeria or Saudi Arabia and build our life the way we want to, sure, I'll still be against it, but sure. But trust you me, that's not the case. It's a one-way street, and it's all going into the West. And if anyone criticizes it, they'll try to jail them.
Yeah, it's a one-way streets, where they're all flooding the West. The Compacts for Migration is legislation of mass migration. It is declaring migration as a human right, so it will in effect become impossible to criticize Mrs. Merkel's welcome migrants politics without being at risk of being jailed for hate speech.
And now here's the funny thing. That migrant opening she created, Merkel herself said, okay, you know what? I should not have done this. She's not taking any political responsibility for it, other than saying, well, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, no, it didn't work out the way I wanted. Which, in effect, if this goes into power, she won't even be allowed to say, because then she's criticizing the migrants. It's kind of funny. Oh, I have to look it up, because I'm pretty sure she already said that her migration politics didn't work.
In 2015, Angela Merkel pushed for an open-door migration policy, which I think is a huge mistake, across the EU. Critics said the move was motivated by Germany's need to boost its workforce by at least 1 million. But I think it has been backfiring, because don't they just stay in welfare?
Well, we know that in both in Germany and in Sweden, at least 80% stayed in welfare. Yeah. So they're a drain on the society. They're not an asset to society. And this is another thing. I know of refugees that came to the Netherlands years and years ago, and they actually came here to work and thrive and build up their society. And they want to be part of the Netherlands. I haven't heard anyone speak out against illegal migrations in Europe as much as I have heard these legal refugees speak out against illegal migration, because they recognize the destruction that is coming with it. And that the destruction is coming. I mean, seriously, look at France. The reason that the Yellow Vest protests are happening is because the people really are getting fed up. You can't even walk safely in Paris because of the tents everywhere. People are actually shitting in the streets. Now, I know this is normal in San Francisco, but here in Europe, we frown upon that sort of thing.
So, wait a minute. People are shitting on the streets of San Francisco as well?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that, because, I mean, even where I'm from in America, shitting on the streets is frowned upon. I think it's because San Francisco is part of California. In California, they also want, to let them all in, to let all the Mexicans in and all the people from Guatemala. And those are like, I mean, isn't Guatemala a third world country?
Well, I have to look it up. I know that there are several cities in America, most of them in California, not all of them, where people are actually defecating on the streets, which unfortunately is now also a thing in Paris, for example.
Well, where I'm from in America, that is socially frowned upon. If you tried shitting in the streets, where I'm from, you would get thrown in jail. You're not allowed to do that.
You should be, let's be honest.
Okay, I would continue. The documents is an intergovernmental negotiated agreements prepared under the auspices of the United Nations that covers all dimensions of international migration in a holistic and comprehensive manner. Austria, Australia, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Italy, Israel, Poland, Slovakia, and Switzerland have already stated they will not sign the agreements.
I'm not quite sure, but if I remember right, Austria and Poland also aren't even at the meeting in Marrakesh. They decided not even to send people to talk there because why bother talking? This is too stupid to be real anyway.
I don't see the Netherlands.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Netherlands might sign it. I have no idea why, but then again, our politicians are pretty fucked up as well. This is kind of why I was thinking about starting a Dutch channel, to be honest, because it's for just an example. We have in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, we have a school which calls itself a Muslim university, and it isn't a university, but it calls itself that anyway. Financially, there's all sorts of things going wrong. I mean, things aren't above water. And the person leading that university has already said that it would be perfectly all right to murder followers of the Gulen movement. Because this guy is Turkish, and Gulen, not Gulen, Gulen is a Turkish Muslim movement, and it's Erdogan is against them, and yeah, so it's perfectly all right to kill them. So there we have someone who calls himself the head of a university, calling out to murder other people. And in the Netherlands, people tend to ignore that, which goes beyond reality, in my humble opinion. Oh, by the way, I did find when Angela Merkel apologized for her migration chaos. That was in 2016. And she couldn't make that apology now, or rather, under the pact, she wouldn't be allowed to make that apology because then she would criticize the whole migrant movement thingy. It's kind of funny though. I thought it was last year that she apologized, but it's already 2 years ago and nothing has changed since.
One of the guiding principles of the documents asks for a whole of society approach to promoting mass migration, including the role of the media. Governments are asked to promote independent, objective, and quality reporting and stop allocation of public funding or material supports to media outlets that systematically promotes intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and other forms of discrimination towards migrants.
And here's the funny thing, because if you're not allowed to talk about a certain group of people, doesn't that then automatically make them a protected class rather than a minority class?
I mean, I'm just amazed by the doublethink. I mean, the doublethink is amazing. Like, he wants to promote independence, objective, and quality reporting, but you also don't want them to say anything that could promote intolerance or xenophobia. So it's like, what if migrants do something like really, really bad? So if migrants were to do something terrible, they could not report. They actually can't have independence reporting. I mean, the doublethink is amazing. This second this second sentence, contradicts the first sentence.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea. It's well, it is rather Orwellian. It is newspeak, and you're not allowed to speak about certain groups because yeah, these groups might be bad, but how dare you say that they are bad because that makes you bad? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, they're not really trying to promote independence, objective, uh, quality reporting because you do have to report the bad things. If migrants do something bad, and objective, independent journalist would be reporting on it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is scary, and I say scary, but it's downright criminal that this is what they're trying to make people do. And I'm not sure, but I really do hope that this is both the death knell for Europe and the death knell for the United Nations. Because, I mean, I've seen some stupid shit coming from the United Nations, but this is icing on the cake, so to speak.
This could cause a civil war. I mean, it's already caused, I mean, the Yellow Vest riots. I mean, Europe could break out into war over this.
Well, war might be a big word, but yeah. And there are already countries in Europe that have already stated what their intended goal is compared to this. Poland has spoken out against it, Austria, Italy. Funny enough, Merkel is in favor of it. Germany isn't. But yeah, considering that she's running the show for the time being. But that's another thing. 80% of the people in Europe, several polls give this number, whether they're polled in the Netherlands, whether they're polled in the UK, whether they're polled in France, whether they're polled in Sweden. Roughly 80% of the people in Europe are against open door policies. And this is an open door policy. So yeah, I'm really sure what will happen next because in France, the yellow vests are the beginning. But yeah, I think you might be right that strong politicians like Salvini in Italy and what's his name in Hungary, they will find that they will have more support from the people within their country, and they will find that they have a lot of support of people in different countries.
Yeah, I know I've read an article that tried to make Salvini out to be like an evil racist for not wanting to take in all the migrants.
Yeah, well, that's. I'm sorry, but if the certain ifs and oats are being used as if they mean anything, but nowadays when someone calls someone else a racist or a homophobe or it's meaningless. It's just buzzwords to try and silence people. These words are losing all their effect, which is a good thing because if we look at the word like racist, that was built by the Bolsheviks to try and silence everyone speaking out against the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, like right now, the media is trying to call PewDiePie a racist, and so far it's backfiring because, like, I mean, if you look at his like to dislike ratio, he is getting lots and lots of support. Very few people think that PewDiePie is a racist. No, and not only that, but it's like they're definitely killing the word, like, like PewDiePie, he has a lot of support. He has like 77 million subscribers, and they are shooting themselves in the foot calling him a racist.
Yeah, but they're not calling him a racist to try and convince people like you and me. They're calling him a racist to try and convince people like, what's her name, Wyszynski, the leader of YouTube, the people like Jack, what is it, Conti from Patreon, to try and demonetize PewDiePie and get PewDiePie deplatformed. It's the same what they did. with Alex Jones and how Patreon has acted around Sargon, but also around Milo Yiannopoulos. These are, we're in the middle of an ideological driven war, and they are basically trying to silence everyone who's not part of their group. And this is just another way to do so.
Well, this won't work on PewDiePie because PewDiePie is the most popular person of all of YouTube. PewDiePie is really, really huge. If he leaves, he is going to take so many people with him. And I mean, this would destroy YouTube. If PewDiePie leaves, it would destroy YouTube. He's too big.
But at this point in time, and at this point in time, they don't want to try that just yet. But I do see them going there. I really do see them going there because there are other big channels out there as well. And where PewDiePie may be the biggest of the single-person channels, there's lots of companies out there that have more subscribers than PewDiePie. So it's double. It really is. And at this point in time, they still want to keep PewDiePie because he makes a lot of money for them. But don't forget, Alex Jones made a lot of money for YouTube too, and YouTube still axed him.
Well, Alex Jones, I think he had 1 million. That does not compare to 77 million. But
True.
But like, for example, they have a hard time getting rid of Logan and Jake Paul. It's like, and one of them were in Japan's suicide forest taking pictures of a dead corpse. But no matter how much bad publicity they're getting from the Paul brothers, Jake and Logan Paul, they still cannot get rid of them because of how many people they bring in.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Jake and Logan Paul, even though I think they're more heinous than PewDiePie, I don't think YouTube is as much out to get them because they are not politically incorrect as PewDiePie is. Even though I don't think PewDiePie is very politically incorrect either. But yeah, there is that. It's weird. It's weird though that, in all fairness, I know we are on YouTube now, but I can't see YouTube lasting much longer if they continue to play these politics with who is and is not allowed to have free speech on that platform.
Well, I was talking with Alcier, and he was talking about that Article 13. I mean, it's going to cause YouTube to block American content to Europeans because Americans, they tend to add music to their videos, and Americans tend to put memes and stuff, which wouldn't be allowed, in Europe because of Article 13. So should that go through, especially if it's really strict and it's not modified, what would happen is that American content would just be blocked to Europe, which could lead them to lighten up on us Americans, because we Americans, we do not have any hate speech laws. Hate speech doesn't exist in America, so it could put YouTube in a position where they just go by American speech, like our American Constitution, that's as long as it's legal, it's allowed on YouTube, because our content would have to be blocked to Europe anyway.
No, you're probably correct on that as well. I don't know though. I mean, the main thing I have a problem with, and this is what the UN Migration Pact is all about, but this is what the movements within YouTube, Facebook, Patreon are all about as well. It's silencing dissenting voices. That's what it's all about. It doesn't matter why you're dissenting, therefore you should be deplatformed. It's I don't know. It seems to be normal, and that's the worst of it all.
Mm-hmm.
We see it happen constantly, and we see it happen. As I said, look at what happened to Alex Jones. And I'm not a fan of Alex Jones. I don't care about Alex Jones. But the fact that they silenced him the way they did, Milo Yiannopoulos, haven't seen him for a while. Laura Southern, haven't seen her for a while. Why? Because out of the main platforms, they have been removed. And there are no, I mean, BitChute obviously, but there are no big counter movements yet. And that's the problem I have with this UN Migration Pact, because there is no big counter movement to this one yet either. The difference being that starting a new platform is probably a lot less problematic than the possibility of bloodshed, which is what the UN Migration Pact might cause.
Okay. Though I do think Milo is still on YouTube, though. I mean, I could check, but I think he is still on YouTube.
Not much from him then.
Huh?
I haven't seen much from him then.
Well, I made it right now. See, he's still on YouTube. See?
When did his last video come?
2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well.
He's still on YouTube, and his last video was 2 weeks ago. I mean, I don't know if if you're following many of his fans on Twitter, but he's still around.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't follow anyone on. Well, I do follow people on Twitter. I just don't follow Twitter, so I don't always check Twitter. So maybe I should do that then. But
yeah, yeah, because he's definitely still on YouTube.
Yeah, okay. I haven't seen any of his videos since then.
Yeah, and I think that Lauren Southern is working on a different project. Let me look. Yeah, Lauren Southern, she's still on YouTube. She hasn't gotten kicked out.
Okay.
Her last video was a month ago, but I heard that she wants to work on bigger projects, and it's going to take lots of her time.
Well, fair point then. Then I'm wrong on those two.
Okay, Italian Deputy Prime Minister Salvini said on Wednesday that Italy will not sign the United Nations Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration next month. He said, just like the Swiss who cared for the Global Compact up until yesterday, and then said, everyone stop. The Italian government will not sign anything. It will not go to Marrakech. Huh?
Marrakesh.
Marrakesh. The floor of parliament must debate it. The Italian government will allow parliament to decide. Italian Prime Minister Conte warned the migration document tackles issues citizens are divided on. Mr. Conte said the Global Migration Compact is a document that raises issues and questions that many citizens have strong feelings about. Therefore, we consider it right to put the debate in parliaments and subject any final decision on the outcome of the debates, as Switzerland has done.
And they are correct to do so, because funny enough, once they've already signed it, you cannot have that debate anymore, because that debate would equate criticism of migration. And this is the one thing I keep tripping over. Once you sign, you can't do anything. Well, you're not allowed to do anything against it, because one could say, well, yeah, but that's criticism of migration. So I really hope that Italy decides not to sign it. I mean, after they had their parliamentary discussion, but it's beyond stupid that so many European countries don't even bother asking their citizens anymore. But then again, I know why, because if we look at Europe doesn't have a constitution, and they more or less wrote one, and then they put the European constitution to the vote in a lot of European countries. And in several of these countries, the European constitution got rejected. And so they basically put up another referenda, and they waited for people to have it right, so that they could still go on with what the people had already said they didn't want. It's kind of funny, because that's what's happening in the UK now as well. They're talking about how they should have a second referenda on the Brexit, because the first one didn't give the answer that they had hoped for.
Yeah. I'm just going to continue. So because I don't have anything to add on to that. So the government will not participate in the what's it? Marrakesh?
Marrakesh.
Huh?
Marrakesh.
Marrakesh, reserving the option to adopt the documents or not, only when Parliament has expressed its opinion. Slovak Foreign Minister
Miroslav Lajčák
has decided to resign in protest at Parliament's decision on Tuesday to reject the UN's pact on the treatments of migrants. His ministry said Mr. L was president of the United Nations General Assembly when the Migration Pact was adopted, and had earlier threatened to quit. His country did not support it. The Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration was approved in July by all 193 member UN nations except the United States, which backed out last year. I am glad we Americans backed out last year, and it is due to be ratified formally in December. The ministry said Foreign Minister AML has decided following today's votes in Parliament to resign. Slovakia's Prime Minister Peter has said his government would never accept the pact because of its take on migration, which is great. I am glad that Slovakia has a backbone. Would never accept it because let's see. Because of its take on migration as a general positive phenomenon, and it's not a positive phenomenon, which contradicts Slovakia's will to distinguish among the migrants. Besides,
Bratislava.
Other European Union members like Austria, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Sean DePad, while Switzerland, the latest decision, DPAD was conceived after the biggest influx of migrants into Europe since World War II, many fleeing the conflicts and poverty in the Middle East, Africa, and beyond. And I think, yes, we finished the whole entire article. Did you have anything more you wanted to add on, or?
Well, what I found, the last bit, the pact was conceived after the biggest influx of migrants into Europe since World War II. This is because of Germany opening the borders. And the difference with the last time when we had such a large group of people moving through Europe, those people moved back. And what we are seeing now is they're not moving because of a war. They're moving for economic reasons, which in itself, I don't know. If you come to the Netherlands, yeah, sure, you're more than welcome. But most of the migrants aren't migrants because they want to flee from war-torn regions. They come because of the welfare states that are running Europe. And funny enough, those welfare states are failing because, well, money is running out. So that's another problem with this pact, because you're not allowed to talk about these things anymore.
I think Tyler might want to come in, and I do have another article that is, if you want to discuss it. And the reason why I picked this article is because it is about the Netherlands, I think.
Oh yeah, sure, go.
But wait, I think Tyler might want to in. Let's see. Please continue though while I reach out to Tyler.
Well, hi there, people in the chat. Hi there, Funny Bunny. I know who Funny Bunny is. And hi there, MC. I have no idea who MC is, though. I'm sorry. Rin is talking to Tyler Preston, great YouTuber. And apparently we might do another article. I haven't a clue what article we're going to talk about. So I'm going to give a little bit more of my opinion when it comes to the United Nations Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, Regular Migration. Are you doing all right, Rin?
I have a cold.
It's the time of the year, isn't it? I have to admit, I'm not feeling that well either. I'm a little bit under the weather as well.
I am going to send Tyler the Hangout link in case he wants to come in.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry.
Because I mean, the more the merrier.
Mm-hmm. But the thing about the United Nations Global Compact on Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration is where it comes from. The United Nations is, or was, made to prevent wars, and it is failing at that. Now, the United Nations is having a large influence from European countries, yeah, sure, but larger influences from Islamic, Middle Eastern countries, African countries, and especially those two, the African and the Middle Eastern countries, want to have free movement of people from their countries into the Western world. They don't really need people to come to their countries, but they want their people to be able to come to Western countries, because that way they can, how do you call this? Appropriate some of the wealth that the Western countries have built. Now, I know that there are people out there that say, yeah, but I mean, these countries are poor because of colonialism and whatnot. And, the thing is, if that were true, then why are these countries still poor? Let's be honest, the Middle Eastern countries have done more colonialism than the Western countries. The Western countries might have been better at it. Yeah, sure. But in raw numbers, it's not the same. And at the same time, and maybe this is my most important bit, after the Second World War, every Western country was poor as dirt. So, anyway, hi there, Tyler Preston.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Tyler. I am really glad you're able to come.
No problem. Like, what's the topic so far?
We just got finished with one topic. PC gone mad criticizing migration could become a criminal offense. We're getting off that topic and we're about to start a new one. But if you want to comment on it, I would I'll give you the shorts of it. The shorts of it is that criticism of migration will become a criminal offense.
Okay, that's just stupid, but I'm not surprised about this. Mostly because it seems as though that a lot of the actions of the EU is just basically anti-free speech. If you look back, like a few years ago, basically they were trying to crack down on like the hate speech on the internet, and so they wanted to work with companies like Google and Facebook and Twitter to make sure that that kind of speech was not allowed. And I've been hearing some stories like in the past too, where basically like German authorities, if somebody were to criticize like migration, that they would actually come down and, open their doors and just arrest a person because of that. So I'm not really surprised about this whole entire new idea of trying to make criticizing like migration illegal.
Yeah, and not only that, but not only do they want to make criticism of migration a criminal offense, but even with the media cannot, what did they say, spread hate, intolerance, or xenophobic ideas. And it was really weird. You should see the double speak. I mean, it was weird. I found it. The governments are asked to promote independence, objective, and quality reporting, and stopping allocation of public funding or material support to media outlets that systematically promotes intolerance, xenophobia, racism, and other forms of discrimination towards migrants. And I thought the double think is amazing. You want to promote independence and objective reporting, but at the exact same time, you want to stop reporters from saying anything that could promote intolerance, xenophobia, or racism.
Yeah, the thing is about it is that first of all, I'm just glad that our country is not signing this. So basically, even if we were to sign it, for example, there is no way that part of that, like that whole entire compact, would actually go through because we have our First Amendment, unlike other countries. So I'm just glad that we're just, didn't sign that at all.
Yeah, some countries didn't sign it. Oh yeah, the countries that didn't sign it were Austria, Australia, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Italy, Israel, Poland, Slovakia, and Switzerland.
And of course, our friends at Canada signed it.
Yeah, they went there.
Yes.
Incredible. I mean, you can be an idiot and you can be, how do you call this? Eager to be an idiot. We're signing it even before. It's to any of the Canadian people listening to this or hearing this, please don't vote for Trudeau.
I think the only reason why they voted for him is because of the weed. It's just basically just the weed and nothing else, I think.
But he still hasn't legalized. Come on. Yeah. Oh well.
And here is another article I found from the National Geographic. This notorious Christmas character is dividing a country. Neo-Nazis in the Netherlands have responded violently to get rid of Santa's blackface holiday assistance.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
numbers on this topic alone. I think I've done 3 videos about this in the last few years. You want me to give a little bit of background information on this one?
Sure, please.
Okay. In the Netherlands, we have the celebrations of Saint Nicholas. Basically, Saint Nicholas is the same person that the Americans celebrate when they celebrate Christmas. They call him Santa Claus, and now he's a fat guy due to the Coca-Cola company, but it's the same guy. And your version has elves. Our version is based on the original saint from Myra. And the original saint from Myra gave away his clothes and whatever. Hell, he was an actual bishop. He actually has lived. And he was there, for example, with the Council of Nicaea in 300, deciding on what Christianity would and would not become. So it's based on a real person. And throughout history, he had different helpers. But in the 19th century, 1853, I'm going to say by heart, I don't know the direct number, but somewhere 1850, a Dutch writer wrote a story about the Saint Nicholas, and his helper, his Piet. And this is when Black Piet got invented. The people inventing Zwarte Piet, Black Piet, were the same people that were fighting in the Netherlands for the abolishment of slavery. They were against slavery, and Black Piet was supposed to be a strong, independent black character. The introduction of him into an already existing tradition, which is the tradition of Santa Claus coming to give presents. Santa Claus already was known for having helpers. Black Piet was just a new one. But this one became so important that it became a role model of free black people, more or less. It's a little bit more rounded than that. But the organization that brought in the story of Black Piet also helped abolish slavery. Saint Nicholas, when he was still alive, at the Council of Nicaea, has voted against slavery in the Christian culture. These are things, these are facts. We know this. Both that he voted against slavery and that the person writing the book about Black Piet was against slavery. And now all of a sudden, there is a small group of people, well, all of a sudden, it's been going on for a few years, a small group of people in the Netherlands who are like, well, Black Piet is a slave, and therefore he should be scrubbed out of the tradition. But within the tradition, he's not a slave. He's only a slave in their minds. And the only reason I can think they think he's a slave is because he's black.
So basically their own personal projection onto that character.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you another story. Tyler Preston, because I know you don't know much about Santa Claus and Zwarte Piet. So I'm going to tell you another story. The story is this. Santa Claus comes to the Netherlands by steamboat every year. Somewhere in November, end of November. And they usually have a great traditional hangout. Media is there. Sometimes the king is there. The mayor of the city will be there. But seriously, sometimes the king is there. Yeah. So it's televised. The boat comes into the harbor. and the king or the mayor or the prime minister or whoever is going to be there that year wants to meet Sinterklaas, so he wants to go on board to say hi to Sinterklaas. He always asks permission from a Zwarte Piet, because now we have many Zwarte Pieten, but he always asks permission from a Zwarte Piet if he's allowed to come aboard. At that very point in time, who's the most important person in the world?
Zwarte Piet?
Well, yeah, obviously, because he's the one who's going to say yes or no. And the most interesting thing is that it has happened that he said no. And then they waited for Sinterklaas to come off the boat. Now tell me this. Where in the history of slavery did a slave ever have the right to say no to a king? And still they think he is a slave. It's amazing. Now, Zwarte Piet is usually depicted in colorful clothing. Let me see if I can find an image, because that might make it a little bit easier to talk about.
Yeah, like I was watching a Russian video about Zwarte Piet. Like it was a Russian video, and it was about, like, I don't know, the Russians were making a video about whether or not the Dutch are racist. It's somewhere on YouTube, and they're like, yeah, it's somewhere on YouTube. It's kind of like, are Dutch people racist? They got this black cab driver, and the black cab driver were like, people call me Zwarte Piet, and my feelings are hurt, stuff like that.
People insult people. Shut the fuck up about that. I mean, but the sheer stupidity. Okay, I've got a few Zwarte Pieten here, and this is one of the more, well, the colors may be different, but this is one of the more normal ways of depicting Zwarte Piet. Hoop earrings, usually gold or gold-colored. He has very colorful clothing, like this, for example. Very colorful clothing. Now tell me this, because this is a story. This is a character coming out of the 19th century. To have colorful clothing meant you had a lot of money. To have gold hoop earrings meant you have a lot of money. Which slaves ever had a lot of money? They keep bringing it up. Yeah, but he's black, therefore he must be a slave. Now, Suriname was once part of the Netherlands. They still celebrate Sinterklaas and Zwarte Piet. Do you know what skin color Zwarte Piet has in Suriname?
Black?
Yeah, because that's the tradition. And they don't care. In the Antilles, black, because that's how it's supposed to be.
It's come to show you, like, people don't really understand the context of things before they start screaming about things.
What makes it even worse, in my humble opinion, is that he's a slave because he's black. The rest of the story doesn't matter. It's because he's black, therefore he must be a slave. The sheer stupidity of it. How negative can you be about, well, your own heritage, so to speak? I mean, Tyler Preston, I know your work, and I mean, I do appreciate your work as well. I don't like it that you make so much stuff in Spanish now, because I don't understand Spanish. But yeah,
actually, I have the reverse attitude. I am glad that I see Tyler speak so much Spanish. I like it when I get to read his tweets in Spanish. Yeah, it's like I could actually read some of it, and I feel like my Spanish is actually improving thanks to Tyler. And I mean, I'm really grateful, especially when you tag my name, like to make sure I see your tweets because I don't always see your tweets. So I'm glad when you tag my name to make sure I see it because it's like, man, I actually missed that one. And it's like it gives me a chance to read more Spanish and improve. And it's like, oh my goodness, this is great. I actually understand this.
Yeah, basically, like the whole entire idea of just, language learning in general is basically you have to constantly just go over it over and over and over again and memorize it, and that's how you become fluent.
No, that's completely true. And I don't have a will to learn Spanish, but then again, I'm already decent in at least 3 languages, and at a certain point in time, I have to say enough.
Okay, so you speak English and Dutch. What else do you speak?
German.
German. Well,
well, I know a few words in Spanish, and I know a few words in Polish, and I know a few words in French and Italian, but yeah, although that means really talking about a lot.
Yeah, I would love to have more opportunities to improve my Spanish.
Have you tried talking to your Mexican or Latino neighbors?
They're more busy now. They're more busy.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be easier if I could find somebody online to talk to.
I know a lot of people from Spain.
It's always good to speak multiple languages, whether it's English or Spanish or whatnot. I mean, it's good for the brain. Actually, it's a good way to keep, how do you call it, Alzheimer? No, not Alzheimer. Good way to prevent dementia.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, with Alzheimer's, you could pretty much forget everything. Like, not just languages, but everything.
True. Alzheimer is, how do you call it, that your brain is actually... But dementia is not as... Well, it can be aggressive as well, don't get me wrong. But learning multiple languages is a good way of preventing your chance of getting dementia.
Mm.
I should be able to find that study. But then again, not what we're talking about today. So yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't mind you speaking Spanish, but yeah, I don't follow Spanish. So.
Yeah, okay. It's no problem, dude. No problem. But Ren, do you have any more articles for us to review?
I was a little bit like I thought I was going to have to go through the whole article on Swatterpeats, but Madeline, he got like really passionate, just like let me tell you the whole entire history. I wasn't expecting that.
It's really funny because every year Black Lives Matter and some local groups, well, local version of Black Lives Matter, come out of woodwork and start bitching and moaning about Zwarte Piet.
Oh
but
my
we have a kinderombudsman. I think you know what an ombudsman is. I hope you know.
Oh my god! Like they actually have a Black Lives Matter Netherlands.
Well, they don't really call it that, but yeah, that's what it's. There is a Black Lives Matter in Finland. How many black people there are in Finland?
I heard, I'm not sure if it's sure or not, but I heard that there is a Black Lives Matter in Japan.
Yeah, I saw that too. I saw the clip of that.
And there aren't that many. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, let me look for that clip. Hold on. Let's see. Black Lives Matter, Japan. God. Oh. Okay, I don't see any clips right now, but like I remember seeing that clip before. It was so weird. Like it's not many black people there.
No, not at all. And same with. I mean, Black Lives Matter in Finland. What are they going to do? Protest the slavery of the Finnish people? Oh, wait a second. They didn't have any. And they actually did protest slavery in Finland. It doesn't get any stupider than that. Anyway.
I also saw like a Black Lives Matter Sweden at one point at the Angry Foreigner channel.
Yeah, that's well, actually, the Black Lives Matter in Sweden is actually a problem because Sweden is so incredibly social justice-y. The government there, it's corrupting the society. But I really need a fast bio break, so I'll be right back.
Okay. As everyone's friend is Tyler. He's your only black friend, so he's your best black friend. I wouldn't treat him for another black.
Let's see. It's what would that would be in Spanish? Like estados amigos.
It's like es tu amigo de negro es Tyler.
Yeah, my Spanish is not all that good. It's like I do know some like kind of what's it? Of course, I know como estás, but I think you could also say como está usted.
Yeah. Basically, like you use that for strangers. Like if you don't know somebody, just como está usted.
Yeah, como está usted? Because I mean, I think everybody know como estás, but that's like for close friends and people. I don't. It you know like these websites, they teach you the familiar kind first. They don't teach you the formal kind first, like when you see a complete stranger. So it's like it's nice to get used to saying como está usted, or what's another one? Oh, I have my book with me. I forgot this one. Largate. That's like go away. Déjame en paz. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. But besides like the migrant like compact, and also the whole Santa Claus and the black elf controversy. Besides those two things, like, is there any other topics you two have in mind?
Man, you missed the biggest topic when we were talking about, you know, how we're not allowed to criticize migrants because that that was the big topic we had, because we spent a huge chunk of time talking about it. Other than that, I do have this article. I'm not sure if you're interested or not. It's called The New Evolution Deniers, and it's about it's basically about feminism. And
I want to let me look at the article. I'll try to just commentate on it while I just read it. It sounds interesting and cringy, but interesting.
Yeah, cringy mostly, I guess. We're talking about feminism, so nothing good can come of it.
I put it in the side chat, and I mean the first two paragraphs are kind of boring. I think we could skip the first two paragraphs.
Let's see. Evolutionary biology has always been controversial. Hold on, I can hear my echo right now. Okay, that's much better. Okay, evolutionary biology has always been controversial. Not controversial among biologists, but controversial among the general public. This is largely because Darwin's theory directly contradicted supernatural accounts of human origins rooted in religious tradition and replaced them with fully natural ones. Okay, of course. This is basically just talking about the history of...
I'm already going to say it's not true, though.
Yeah.
Because... And this is why there are plenty of Christians who do believe in Darwin's evolutionary theory, because the evolutionary except for the how long it might have taken. The evolutionary theory is an explanation of how it's done. It never said it's not being done by a god. It's merely that it's done for our sake. Way.
Oh, you okay, Wen?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You kind of sound a little sick right now.
Oh, I am sick.
Oh man, that's awful. Like, is it snowing down there?
Huh?
Is it snowing down there?
I'm not sure if I catch you.
Like, is it snowing?
Oh, there's no snow here.
Okay, okay. All right, let's see. Let's go to the second paragraph. In the 1990s and 2000, these were replaced. Let's see, they were replaced attempts by evangelicals to ban evolution in public schools, or teach the so-called controversy by including intelligent design. Oh, this is basically just referring to just America, not the world. It's just America they're talking about here. The belief that that life is too complex to have evolved without the aid of some intelligent designer, i.e. God, and the biology curriculum alongside evolution, but these attempts have failed when scientists demonstrated in court that intelligent design was nothing more than biblical creationism guised up in scientific sounding posts. Since then, however, creationism and intelligent design have lost a tremendous amount of momentum and influence. I guess, like, I remember the last time, at least not so long ago, there was like some sort of debate with like Bill Nye and also who else? Bill Nye and that other guy. I forgot the guy's like Ken Ham. That's his name.
Oh, Ken Ham.
Yes. It was really cringy though when I first saw that debate.
Well, they're both cringy, to be honest.
Like, this was before you actually made like that video on Netflix.
Oh yeah, that was sellout Nye, but
yeah,
all that. I mean, in all fairness, Bill Nye made people talk about science as a good thing, but he isn't actually a scientist. He's an engineer. I mean, his education isn't that much higher than mine, and I'm not a scientist either, to be honest.
Though I do think we could skip around though, because what it's talking about is that it's going to talk about feminism and how feminists ignore biological sex differences. It says it's in the middle of the third paragraph. The group that most fervently opposed and still opposes evolutionary explanation for behavior sex differences in humans were and are social justice activists. To their priori commitment to the blank slate psychology, the belief that male and female brains in humans starts off identical and that all behavior, sex linked or otherwise, is entirely the result of differences in socialization.
Okay, and
That's in the third paragraph.
That's the utmost of bullshit that there is. The human brain is, well, it's a unique little engine anyway, but they can actually, if someone kills you, cuts off your head, takes out your brain and tosses your brain on the street, they might not be able to identify who you were, but they can say what ethnicity you are and what gender you are, or what sex you are, because gender and sex are somehow interchangeable, and they can give a rough estimation at how old you are. Male and female brains are vastly different. Hell, they even work differently, and we know this. I made a video about that one, not, well, more than a year ago, I think. So the whole idea that male and female brains are the same, incredible. They keep pushing it, and it's a blatant lie. It's not even to do with evolution. It's, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it seems as though that some of these people also pushing this idea of there's just more than 2 genders, or infamously like 100 genders or something.
Oh, this is kind of why feminists are. I mean, there are lots of feminists out there that are actually against trans people because
the TERFs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in all fairness, if there are a lot of genders, then trans don't make any sense. Because trans is transitioning from one to the other. Hence, there are only 2.
Yeah. So why would they like transition to someone that's non-binary? It doesn't make any sense. If it's like only 2.
You can only transfer from man to woman or from woman to man. There's no other racial or what. Actually, there are people
transracial. Oh my god. Oh.
Look at Rachel and what's the other one? I forgot his name. Oh.
I remember watching that video one time. It was some woman from like what was it? The NAACP, who was actually a white woman, but she identified as being black.
Wasn't that Rachel Dolezal?
I forgot.
Yeah, Rachel Dolezal. That's Rachel Dolezal, and the white guy. I think he means Sean King.
Yes, Sean King. Delcom X. Oh, for fuck's sake! They're both whiter than I am. And they claim to be of African descent, which is maybe true, but not in the same way as they mean it.
Oh yeah, kind of like how Elizabeth Warren is kind of like, I am Native American, and Elizabeth Warren loves to prance around calling herself Native American, and like the DNA test came back, and then she's like, I don't know, like 1% Native American.
No, even less than that. 1 in 1,024. I've been, if I remember correctly, 1 in 1,024. Fucking hell. But how can you take these sort of people serious? But at the same time, they are emphasizing racial segregation time and again. I mean, these people have done more damage to the racial integration of the modern world than the KKK fucking have.
That is true. Like basically, in some universities here, there are some black safe spaces, so to speak. Like basically, like those minority spaces where it's like for certain minorities only, or certain Muslims only, or certain religions only.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but if you need, I have no problem with any ethnicity. And I mean, you don't know me, Tyler, but Rin has been around me for a while. We've had a few hangouts. I don't care. It's color because I simply don't care. Either I think you're an interesting person, and you don't know this of me, Tyler, but I did follow you, or I still do follow you. So I think you're an interesting person. But I think you're an interesting person because of what you say, not because of the skin color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I also like you, Tyler. Like I said earlier, I like how, I mean, I get to learn so much Spanish from you. You know, you are far more fluent than I am, and I'm really grateful to you for helping me out. Like whenever I have a question in Spanish, you are the very first person that comes to mind.
You're welcome. I try to help as much people as possible. Like usually when it comes down to like internet drama and stuff, I don't really try to just be involved in the drama because ultimately it's just a waste of time and energy, and it's just nothing that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, can't agree more with you.
It's like, holy crap, like I've seen so much drama on Twitter alone. It's insane. And also YouTube's as of late.
Oh, are you talking about the PewDiePie situation?
Oh my goodness.
Like PewDiePie is a white supremacist, or
yeah, basically what happened was that he was playing some sort of match, and apparently a guy has some sort of anti-Semitic username, and then people got over him because he was playing against that person. And the thing is that you cannot really control who you play in a video game at all, And so it's just pure coincidence that it happened.
Well, it's even worse because that guy team killed another guy who was basically complimenting PewDiePie for, you know, helping him through a hard period of life. It was pre-game, and the game started, and that guy with the anti-Semitic name killed the guy who was talking to PewDiePie, and PewDiePie was laughing because the guy that was creating a little bit of an awkward situation got killed, got team killed.
Yeah, like I think that PewDiePie was laughing because the guy creating the awkward situation died.
Yeah, but you know, it's the same thing. I don't like the whole idea that you can't say certain things, or you can't say certain words, or you can't have certain names because someone might be offended. I still come from the time when we used to say, you have an issue, get a tissue.
You know what? Back when I was young, we used to say, "Sticks and stones may break our bones, but words would never hurt me."
Exactly.
Whatever happened to those days? Bloody babies we've got around us now. I mean, babies are 40 years old even, but still babies. But they are. I work in psychiatry. I work with children, and they need to learn to live with the problems they have. Most of them do as well as they can. I mean, I'm not going to say everyone achieves well, but most people do good. And one of the things they need to learn is not to be offended by every Tom, Dick, and Harry who says something stupid. There is the social media and actually the real media who's telling them, no, you have every right to be really offended. How's that helping anyone? Pisses me off, really. Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, it's really annoying, like looking at the PewDiePie situation. And PewDiePie was stuck making a 18-minute video explaining everything. Like, I didn't notice the racist references because I'm Swedish and we don't know anything about Heather Heyer. And I went outside, and talked to my his friends, neighbors, and they also had no idea who Heather Heyer was, because that's an American thing. It doesn't go like people in a different country, they're not talking about that.
Of course not.
He has to explain common sense,
The thing is, many people here seem to think that our country is like the center of the world, when reality is not really. It really isn't.
Yeah, or how an American feminist would tell and this is where it gets rather weird. An American feminist would tell British feminist not to use the word cunt because cunt is sexist. But people in England are like, well, in England, cunt is just another word. We don't think anything of it.
Yeah, there's some strange stigma with that word here. I don't know why. It's so.
Professor Platypus, I hope to see you on my channel one day. Criticism on all my work is always more than welcome. So if you agree, if you disagree, drop me a line. And bye-bye. I'm sorry, guys. I had to interrupt, but Professor Platypus is leaving, so I had to shield myself a little bit.
All right, see ya, Professor Platypus.
Bye, Professor Platypus.
See you, Dutch guy. I do have a name, you know. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to act offended, but I can't even do that.
Yeah, I guess I'll continue with the article. Blank slate's psychology, however, is universally rejected by experts as the evidence for the innate sex-linked personality differences in humans is overwhelmingly strong. The experts also universally reject that this view demands we embrace biological um, essentialism because the environment does play a role, and observed sex differences are simply averages and overlap tremendously between the sexes. Sex no more determines one's personality than it determines one's height. Sex certainly influences these traits, but it does not determine them. For instance, most of us know females who are taller than most males and males who are shorter than most females, though we are all aware that males are on average taller than females. In humans, the same is true for behavior traits.
It's not just like, the height, but it's also like strengths too. Like basically, although there's like some strong females who might have more muscles than a guy in a game of arm wrestling, it's just the exception, not the average.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's an intelligence thing as well. Intelligence among women is divided differently than it is among men. Men either score more at the bottom of IQ or at the top of IQ, where most women score way more in average IQ. That's why you will see more brilliant men than you will see brilliant women. Don't get me wrong, there are still brilliant women out there, but you will find more brilliant men than women. But at the same time, you will find more idiot men than idiot women. Don't get me wrong, there are idiot women out there, but there are more men that are idiots. It's that's the whole thing. I mean, the whole tabula rasa argument has been debunked so many times, but there are so many differences between male and female when we talk about purely biological differences. At the same time, that doesn't really mean a thing. I mean, it's what you do with it that gives it meaning, so to speak.
Yes.
I am an evolutionary behavior ecologist, and most of my work is concerned with how individual differences in behavior influence individual fitness and the collective behavior and success of animal societies. Most are probably not aware, but animal personality research is a vibrant field within behavior ecology due to the ubiquity of personality as a phenomenon in nature and its ability to explain interactions both within and between species. In nearly every species tested to date for the presence of personality, we found it, and sex-linked personality differences are frequently the most striking. Sex-linked personality differences are very well documented and are closest primates relatives too.
Oh, wait, let me comment on that section. Like, basically, I remember seeing studies or videos where a group of scientists, I believe, they gave like the male monkeys like the boy toys, and the girl monkeys or primates like the girl toys. And basically, when they got the chance to pick what toy they want to pick and play, the girl monkeys or primates, they basically almost always chose the female toys, and the male ones, the male toys.
Yeah. Well, you're correct, except for one thing.
Yeah.
They didn't give the males male toys and the females female toys.
Oh.
Very get-go, they were able to choose themselves.
Okay.
Because if you would first give someone and then you give them the choice to choose, then they would take the one thing that they are already familiar with. But they didn't give them a choice at the beginning. Or rather, they did give them a choice. They just put it down and then they let them play. And female monkeys would go to female toys. And it's not color-based, what a lot of people like to think. It wasn't color-based. But female toys would go to female chimps would go to female toys, and male chimps would go to boy toys, cars and whatnot. That's because in primates, females are driven towards interacting with others, whereas males are more often driven towards development, tool development, for example. This is also when you can see monkeys using tools, usually just sticks, but it's the male monkeys doing it, and it's not the female monkeys. Though there are exceptions, obviously. Those exceptions are the exception.
Okay, let's go all the way down to like okay, Ren, let's go down to counterintuitively the social justice stance on, and then continue from there. Okay.
Yeah. Counterintuitively, the social justice stance on human evolution closely resembles that to the Catholic Church.
Oh my. Okay. The Catholic view of evolution generally accepts biological evolution for all organisms, yet holds the human soul, however defined, had been specifically created and thus have no evolutionary predecessor. Similarly, like the social justice view has no problem with evolutionary explanation for shaping the bodies and mind of all organisms, both and within a species regarding sex, yet insists that humans are special and that evolution has played no role in shaping observed sex-linked behavioral differences. Why the biological forces that shape all life should be uniquely suspended for humans is unclear. What is clear is that both the Catholic Church and well-intentioned social justice activists are guilty of gerrymandering evolutionary biology to make humans special and keep the universe at bay.
It's kind of funny because if you look back at, I'm not sure if you know about this, Tyler. There is in the 60s there was an experiment which has been called Mousotopia. Now, I know Rin might know of it because I've talked about it quite a few times. But in Mousotopia, they created a concealed atmosphere, and they had a group of mice living there, about 300. And they made sure that there was enough food for them and there was enough water for them, and there were no threats. Now, the mice themselves did not know that there were no threats, but there were no threats, enough food, enough drink. And they noticed that after a few generations, they started to die out because the lack of challenge caused them to develop deviant behavior. Now look at the Western world and look at the average social justice person. They come from very protective households, and they have very little challenges to endure on average. Do you see any resemblance in that?
I could definitely see some. Like, basically, essentially, they come from positions of, you know, in some cases, actually most cases, statues of having, you know, a lot of wealth, a lot of privilege. But then when they look at someone that's actually underprivileged, as they call it, they basically trying to, you know, instill their views of the world onto them. But when they push back, they start to become bigoted towards that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we look at social justice warriors now, we see the same behavior as what we saw in Mousotopia. They are, with their deviant behavior, they are demotivating their society. And in the end, people turn against people. The female mice weren't enticed to take care of their babies anymore. The male mice stopped behaving like male mice and started grooming and behaving more feminine. this is something that, and why is it so interesting? Because mice, just like humans, are mammals. And apparently, our behaviors aren't that different. That's why often they use tests on animals like mice to see how people would react in certain situations. And we know this. We've got the tests, we've got the resources to check this. And at the same time, people seem to be reluctant to even think about it.
Do you know what I find the most interesting about Mouse Utopia? Is
Mm.
that at the end, all of the mice went extinct.
Yeah, they died. They all died. Amazing. Even when they were dying, they didn't change their behavior.
Yeah,
All-
all of them, and like I think that they saved like one mice, and then they put them in a cage with a female mice, but he refused to reproduce with the female mice. It was one of the perfect ones.
Yeah, so that's the scary thing about social justice warriors. If a society gets infected by this and the infection becomes too big, Mouse Utopia has rather some prophetic abilities, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, it's also why I am worried about how Angela Merkel wants to invite so many migrants in, because if she wants to invite so many migrants in, what I'm concerned with is that a country could go extinct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically, the German people have their own culture, their own language, and so when you invite that many people in, how are you going to preserve that, the culture, the language, and everything that's unique to Germany?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that the Germans could be wiped out, because when you look at Mouse Utopia, all of the mice went extinct. They all died. And I am worried about that the overpopulation could cause so much social stress that everybody could just, die out.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't happen, because I tend to have a much more positive outlook of the world. I try not to think that what happened if people just die like that.
Not to mention, I am wondering how the Ebola outbreak in Africa is going to manifest or whatnot.
Oh my
I
god,
don't.
it's actually been years since I heard about Ebola. Actually, it's like I remember like it was something on the news. I think a few years back, where I guess somebody went from Africa and they went to a hospital and they actually treated the patient and I think they survived.
Yeah, the one in America survived.
Yeah.
Because and people are like, yeah, but that's because the medicine is so much better. Yeah, well, also because the standard of living is so much better, so our average health is already higher. I mean, don't forget that the Spanish flu that hit us a few years back was the same that caused a massive killing in Europe around the 20th century at the end of the First World War. That same flu came around a few years ago, but people didn't really die. Well, there were a few people dying because every year people die from the flu, but it wasn't in the millions as it was at the end of the First World War. Why? Because in the Western world, the average health is a lot better than it used to be. So yeah, you're more likely to survive certain illnesses. Ebola is a very dangerous and very unhealthy thing, but in the Western world, you have a good chance to survive that shit.
Yeah, I was just wondering if Ebola could mutate and could cause certain, civilizations to just be wiped out, particularly in Africa.
Well, the answer to that, unfortunately, is yes. Not just in Africa, it could happen in the Western world as well, because we do know that illnesses do mutate. I mean, look at flu, or look at the common cold. It mutates constantly.
I think there was a movie that touched this subject. It's called what was it? Contagion, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I was concerned with is that, like, a rich guy in the, like, I don't know, England could go to Africa for whatever, for his business endeavors to get minerals or diamonds or whatnot, go back to England, and then the Ebola could just start spreading in first world countries and perhaps cause even, because it's like when places are crowded, it's easier for a virus to spread from one person to another, and it would be easier to wipe out a civilization.
Yeah, no. Ebola will not have the same effect in the Western world as it has in Africa.
Not even if it mutates.
Well, if it mutates, no one knows what can happen. But so yeah, there is no way to say yes or no. But Ebola, as is a really dangerous illness, and it's not that dangerous in the Western world because, again, the average health here is pretty high. But yeah, if it mutates, yeah, who knows? I mean, there are already plenty of pathogens that have become resistant to antibiotics, which is a problem in itself.
Okay, let's continue with the article. Let's see, where were we?
Despite,
Okay.
despite there.
All right. Despite there being zero evidence in favor of blank slate psychology and a mountains of evidence to the contrary, this belief entrenched itself within the walls of many university humanities departments where it's often taught as fact. Now okay, slow down, I can't go while I scroll down. Okay, now armed with what they perceive to be an imputable truth questioned only by sexist bigots, they respond with well-practiced outrage to alternative views. This has resulted in a chilling effect. I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing at that. Let's see. And chilling effect that causes scientists to self-censor leads these activists accuse them of bigotry and petition their departments for their dismissal. I have been privately contacted by close, like-minded colleagues warning me that my public views with social justice activists on social media could be occupational suicide and that I would disengage and delete my comments immediately. My experience is anything but unique, and the problem is intensifying. Having successfully power over administrations and silence facilities by inflicting reputational terrorism on their critics and weaponizing their own physiology and outrage social justice activists how now justifiably think that there is no belief or claim too dubious that the administrations won't cater to it. Okay, so basically, it's like I'm kind of sad that people actually are, risking their jobs because of these kind of people, actually. It's kind of sad. Like, I heard, of course, we know about Jordan Peterson and how basically his fight against these kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also probably more people, but they're probably selling in the back, and we don't probably know them right now.
Well, I like to think of Gad Saad at this point in time as well. Gad Saad is an evolutionary psychologist, and he's a brilliant man too. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have heard from him or heard of him, but I can surely advise him. He also is Canadian. He also lives in Canada, I should have said. And yeah, Gad Saad, look him up.
Yeah, I first saw him on the Rubin reports.
Yeah, he is brilliant. He really is. I mean, I like Jordan Peterson, and I don't 100% agree with Jordan Peterson, but I'm not here to talk down or talk him up. But Gad Saad, because evolutionary psychology is not the same as what Jordan Peterson is doing. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, and he's a brilliant man. But he's a brilliant man in a field that I actually work in, and I know a lot of brilliant men like that. And Gad Saad is an evolutionary psychologist, which is a relatively new concept. And he has, time and again, in my humble opinion, proven to be correct in why there is psychology in evolution. Because there is. And to recognize that and to find... Psychology in itself, to me, is a philosophy. Things aren't fixed. They are true within a philosophical sort of way. So it can be this, but sometimes it can be a little bit different. Evolutionary psychology is almost predictionary. So it's a little bit more true than normal psychology, if you understand what I mean. If I can make myself clear enough, that's probably not.
Okay.
It's yeah. Go on. Sorry.
All right, let's see. The article continues. As a biologist, it's hard to understand how anyone could believe something so outlandish. It's a belief on a par with the belief in a flat Earth. Wait. Oh God! Don't remind me of the flat earthers. Oh, like when I first saw the flat earthers, like I thought they were not really serious and legit about it, but like, oh my God, they are.
There are a lot of them, yeah.
Oh my God, it's crazy. Anyway, I first saw this claim being made this year by graduate students on Facebook. At first, I thought they were mistyped and referring to gender, but as I began to pay closer attention, it was clear that they were indeed thinking about biological sex. Over the next several months, it became apparent that this view was not isolated to the small friend circle, as it began cropping all over the internet. In support of this view, recent editorials from Scientific American often are referred, the titles read, Sex Redefined, the ideas of two sexes is overly simplistic. What? Wait, this is from Scientific American? Okay. And visually sex as a spectrum. What? I thought they're supposed to be like trustworthy. Oh my God. Let's see. Oh my God, that's crazy to think that they actually believe this, but okay. Even more recently, the much more scientific journal in the world, Nature, published an editorial claiming that classifying people's sex on the basis of genetics should be abandoned and has no basis in science, and that the research medical community now sees sex as more complex than male and female.
I'm hearing they said that like how they want to teach you that like boys could get periods. Like I heard that that's kind of in school stuff.
Oh God.
Yeah, I have heard of that. Like I have been reading articles that's like they want to teach school kids that boys can get periods to be trans inclusive. Like if you don't teach it, you would be a bigot to the transgender community.
God.
Yeah, because not only men have penises. This is too.
Oh yeah, women could have penises too. Because it's like again, you want to be trans inclusive.
Oh, like okay. First of all, I have no problem if people want to transition. I want to say that out the bat. But come on, guys. We all know that people who are biologically male have a penis. They don't have periods. This is just ridiculous.
But I mean, I have read it somewhere. I did read it somewhere that now schools want to teach that like boys can get like periods, and they want to add it to the school curriculum to be inclusive to trans kids. And if you don't learn it, then like a teacher could get fired for discriminating against the trans community.
Oh man, like I guess if the boy goes to the bathroom and just pees, I'm like, how come I'm not peeing red right now? Anyway, let's see.
Sometimes pee red, but that has something to do with what the day before, I guess. Same thing, is it?
Okay, in the Nature article, the motive is stated clearly enough, acknowledging the reality of biological sex. Will undermine efforts to reduce discrimination against transgender people and those who will not fall in the binary categories of male and female. What?
Yeah.
Oh my!
If people want to be inclusive to the non-binary community.
Less percent of the Western world falls into this category. Therefore, everyone needs to believe this shit. Because otherwise, maybe that less than 1% will be offended.
Oh my god! Like, just I don't understand how people could say they're not male or female. Like how the fuck could you just say that? It just doesn't sound right.
Well,
Like,
to me, it goes one step further. Again, this is my line of work. And the thing that I find most offensive about this is that we know that roughly 4 out of 10 people suffering from gender dysphoria, be it pre-op or post-op, try to commit suicide. There is no other group, no other affliction out there that has a high rate of suicide as gender dysphoria. And these people are trying to make it sound like it's normal to have gender dysphoria. Actually, it's something that should be applauded. People actually die because of this.
also, since you study this work, is it also true that maybe societal pressure can also be a factor too?
On the suicide bit, no. Well, that's not correct. Yes, it could, but in the Western world, with the push for gender dysphoria in itself is not, how do you call it, frowned upon anymore.
Okay.
Look at it like homosexuality in the 60s. People that were homosexual were, on average, more likely to commit suicide than non-homosexual, so heterosexual people. But after the exception of homosexuality, that number dropped really fast. Now, obviously, there are still cultures within the Western culture that does frown upon homosexuality, but on average in Europe and in America, it is allowed. So we don't see that much suicide in the homosexual communities.
Okay.
Gender is accepted within Western societies. It's actually being pushed. There are school programs, television programs, which are actually making it sound like it's a positive thing to be gender dysphoric.
Oh, by the way, Tyler, Ladwin, I don't know if you heard of this situation of this kid where his mother is pushing him to be trans. It's a kid, his mother calls him Luna from Texas. And like when he's with his father, he is like a normal boy. Like he wants to play sports and whatnot. He prefers male clothes. But when he's with his mother, he is Luna. And it's like, yeah, like his mother is forcing this on him.
Yeah.
Do you have a link for that?
Yeah. Let me get stop sharing and give you the link.
Okay, that sounds insane. Like, look, if a person, I guess, comes out as homosexual or trans, like, it's obviously the parents' job to be accepting of their kids to be whatever they want to be. But it's another thing to just push their own personal beliefs onto the kids.
Well, that's the part of it. And it's not just kids. You know, for example, that people suffering from are more likely to become gender dysphoric as well, because they have a development problem as is. And gender dysphoria is, in all fairness, a personality disorder based on Who am I? And the push for gender dysphoria is actually causing harm in children. And the worst part is we have known this from the very first day. The very first person they started the gender reassignment surgery for was a boy who had a botched how do you call it, vasectomy.
Oh, yeah, I talked about it in my video called The Case of Dr. Money, where Dr. Money took a kid who had a botched penis because of he try to get circumcised. And what happened was that he lived his life as a girl, but he knew that something was wrong. Like he knew that something was wrong. He always knew he was a boy inside, but couldn't express it. And then he later committed suicide.
Wait,
Yeah.
wow.
And that's the successful story that gender dysphoria, the push for gender dysphoria, has been on. Because you see, you can change a boy into a girl. Well, if you ignore the fact that he committed suicide, and that's why this is a pet peeve of mine. I don't have any problem with people suffering from gender dysphoria. I feel they need help, and if transitioning is the help that will get them there, then yeah, by all means transition. But the push from society that this is a normal thing, it's infuriating, to be honest. I mean, I'm usually not very aggressive, but these people, they can put against the wall. I don't mind.
Okay, let me read this article right quick since Tyler hasn't heard about it. Mother claims son identifies as a girl. Father disagrees in Texas custody battle. A Texas father is fighting in court for the right to see his son after being charged with child abuse by his ex-wife for not affirming James as transgender. Court documents indicate that the 6-year-old boy only dresses and identifies as a girl when he's with his mother, who enrolled him in his first grade class as Luna. But James' father claims that when the boy is with him, he constantly wears boys' clothing, violently refuses to wear girls' clothes at my home, and identifies as a boy. The father has reportedly been legally prohibited from talking to his son about gender and sexuality from both scientific and religious perceptions, and from seeking to dress his son in boys' clothes. Instead, he is required to offer both girls and boys' clothing. Although he claims that his son constantly refuses to wear dresses, and according to a report by the Federalist, the mother is also seeking to require him to pay for the child's visits to a transgender affirming therapist and transgender medical alterations, which may include hormonal sterilization starting
What?
at age 8.
The worst part is the same people are usually lefties. They have a problem with giving cattle hormones because it makes them grow abnormally big and etc. etc. And it's not nice to use hormones on cattle, but it's perfectly all right to do so on your kids.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, these people, I mean, it really is the main problem I see in our society at this point in time. And we have a lot of problems, but these people actually are willing to sacrifice the lives of their children. It goes beyond anything that I can name.
Oh my. I'm just speechless right now. I don't have no comments for this.
I know, which may include hormone sterilization starting at age 8. An 8-year-old, a child. Ugh.
It's terrible. And the worst part is, I mean, yes, there are people who successfully transitioned, and I hope they can have a successful transition and live a happy life. They are, however, not the rule, but the exception. And they make it sound that this is the rule. Now, I mean, I'm not sure, Tyler, do you know Blair White?
Yes, she's the famous YouTuber. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know her.
I like her. I'm willing to call her because she does an effort and she's really trying to live her life, etc., etc., etc. I have no problem with her. I really hope she has a long and healthy and happy life. But most transgenders are not Blair White. Most of them will always be stuck in who am I? And because they are stuck in who am I, they will never know who they are and they will not be pleased with who they are. So the problem isn't transgenderism in itself. I mean, if you suffer from it, yeah, that's a problem. Seek help. But the push for as if it's normal. Well, like the article Rin is now sharing, and I'm pretty sure the mother has a bigger influence on the transgenderism of the boy than the boy himself. It's
Ooh, just
James was reportedly diagnosed with gender dysphoria by a gender transition therapist that was chosen by his mother, who is a pediatrician. The therapist notes reveal that James chose to identify as a girl when in therapy sessions along with his mother, but as a boy when in sessions with his father. Dossier filed with the Dallas courts says that under the skilled eyes of the therapist, the child was presented two pieces of paper, one with the word James and one with the word Luna, and asked to pick the name he preferred. When the appointment only included his mother, James selected Luna, the name and gender he uses at his mother's home. And in first grade classroom, when the appointment was only with his father, however, James pointed to the boy's name James, not the girl's name.
you
Yeah.
basically they're like, because of this whole entire situation, the boy is now confused.
well, yeah. The boy will try to. I mean, when he's with his mother, he will try to appease his mother,
Right.
which is normal. And when he's with his father, he will try to appease his father, which is normal. So yeah, this kid is so fucking screwed up because of this. And I would advise people, if anyone is still listening, to look at videos from Renee Jacks, or read, because he wrote books as well on gender identity. This is someone who transitioned one way to the other guy side and then went back. And only after that did she deal, she lives as a she now, deal with her gender dysphoria in a way that actually helped her. Because gender dysphoria is a personality disorder. And, there are millions of personality disorders, so it's not something to be nasty about. But, yeah, if you feel that you have this problem, seek help. And the worst part is 95% of children, so pre-pubescent kids that are misdiagnosed with gender dysphoria, because diagnosis at that age is bullshit, grow out of it. Every boy has been walking around in the shoes of their father, and every boy has been walking around in the shoes of their mother. This is the truth for girls as well. Because as little kids, you're developing. This is all part of developing.
Yeah, I've also heard of that like 95% of kids grow out of it. So like by the time that they reach adulthood, they are, they go back to being cisgender. It's something that's really temporary. The father has also obtained eyewitnesses accounts from family, friends, and religious leader, all of whom testified that they've never seen the young boy attempt to identify as a girl. So his mother is pushing this because they never seen him attempt to identify as a girl. Based on the 3 occasions I spent with him, I'd say he acts and looks unmistakably like a healthy 6-year-old boy, wrote Bill Lavelle, senior pastor of Christ Church, Carrollton. I am praying for James, an average 6-year-old boy, a sweet natured, intelligent, lovable, and at this point, particularly vulnerable young man caught up in a titanic clash of worldviews. Family friend Sarah Scott, whose sons regularly play with James and his fraternal twin brother, and who reportedly wants to be sensitive to James' wishes when it comes to gender, also offered her perception. His mother came to pick up the boys to take them to his brother's soccer game, remembered Scott. He hugged his dad and said, I love you. He refused to go to the soccer game as a girl. Okay, refused to go to the soccer game as a girl with his mom and stayed with his dad. That's evening they came to our house. So his mother really is pushing this on him.
This is just a disgusting story. It's just, whew. I don't think I have the right words to just comment on this. Like, it just speaks for itself.
Walt Scheer, who authored the reports at the Federalist, is himself a man who formerly identified as a transgender woman. Heyer writes and speaks regularly about his own experiences and about the dangers of promoting transgender ideology to children. The diagnosis is critical, Heyer wrote in the Federalist, because labeling a child with gender dysphoria can trigger a series of physical and mental consequences for the child. It has legal ramifications in the ongoing custody case. Gets it wrong, Heyer continued, and the boy's life is irrevocably harmed. Heyer believes that James' precious young life hinges purely on the diagnosis of gender dysphoria by a therapist who wraps herself in rainbow colors, affirms the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and dismisses evidence to the contrary. Remove the rainbow from the diagnosis, and it crumbles under the weight of criteria for the diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Argued Heyer. The author added a stern warning that if we do not save the boy from a misdiagnosis, his next step is chemical castration at age 8, only 2 years away. A website called Say James has been set up for anyone interested in knowing more about James and his alleged misdiagnosis.
Jesus fucking Christ. Chemical castration at age 8. Wow.
And the worst part is, because this is about a boy, but this happens with girls as well. And the same thing happens. Once they start doing hormones, their life is fucked. They're doing those hormones earlier and earlier. Once there was a time that they said, no, you have to be 21. But if you start, I mean, they call it puberty blocking hormones. But basically what they're, but these don't have a negative side effect. The effect is that it blocks puberty. Hell, the intended effect is negative. So what do I care about negative side effects when the intended purpose of what you're doing is damaging them? It's I don't understand how this is not child abuse.
It is child abuse.
Well, To me, it is, but legally, it isn't. And I don't understand that. I simply don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, to be quite honest.
I mean, they're actually talking about, for example, in this case, the mother is pro-trans, the father is not. So they're actually talking about removing him from his parental rights.
Ugh.
Sorry about that. Oh, and here's another crazy story. Main team says struggles with gender identity to brutal stabbing the deaths of the parents and dog.
Yeah, because it's a psychological ailment.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It says a teenager who said she killed her parents and the family pet dog because of struggles with her gender identity has been sentenced to 40 years in jail.
I don't care if a person, just struggles with that. It's no excuse to just kill people. It really isn't.
There is no excuse whatsoever.
Oh, should I continue or?
Just continue.
And Andrea, I don't know how to pronounce that last name. Balker was 17 at the time when she snapped and fatally stabbed her parents, Alice and Antonia Balker, at their home at Winthrop, Maine, on October 31st, 2016. Balker alleged she was struggling to deal with her transition from male to female and that her family offered her no support during this time. Balker also claimed she was molested for years by her mother and physically and mentally abused by her father. Accusations the rest of the family fervently denied. After launching the frenzied attack, which includes stabbing her mother 9 times, Balker then killed the family chihuahua because it kept barking. That's crazy. Reports Central Maine. Balker, now aged 20, pleaded guilty to 2 counts of intentional or knowing murder, of 1 count of aggravated cruelty to animals at the Capitol Judicial Center in Augusta, Maine, in September. Appearing at the courts, Balker asked for forgiveness from the rest of her family while being sentenced to 40 years in jail. I made a terrible mistake, one at the cost of the lives of the two people that gave me life and raised me, Balker said. Reports Central Maine. I am only here to ask for one thing, that is forgiveness of my family. The defendant's brother, Christopher Balker, who Balker spared on the nights of the attack, wrote a letter to her in person to say how he had not forgiven her.
Just.
Guys, I'm AFK for a sec. I'll be right back.
Okay. But basically, the moral of the story, if we can have any moral of the story, is to not just go out and just kill your family because of your lost, identity and struggling with it. Like if you have something that you have inside that you feel like you're struggling with, go find someone to help you out. Don't just go on a murdering spree. Seek help. Go to a therapist. Talk to friends. Just do something. Just don't do that.
I agree with you. I remember the foul things you accused her of. So I don't think that she was telling the truth. Like earlier, she was all like, she claimed that she'd been molested for years by her mother and mentally abused by her father. I don't believe her.
I mean, let's say even if that was the case, you cannot really fight fire with fire. If that really did happen as she claimed it did, she probably should just go to the police and report on what happened. It's just, that does not excuse to just, kill family members. Just if you have problems with your family, report it to the police and be done with it.
I remember the fontings you accused her of, and the looks of horror upon the family's faces as they heard about them. You are an inhuman creature, and the fact that you continue to pretend otherwise sickens me. He wrote. Carl Pierce, Alice Balker's brother, told the courts the 20-year-old's claims she did not receive any support during her transition were an insult to our family and an insult to our society and an insult to the LGBT community.
Ah.
There was no hatred, there was no malice, there was no ill will, there was resignation to be sure, but ultimately there was acceptance. To justify these killings because of sexual identity or gender dysphoria beliefs is truly cowardly, and Andrea should be ashamed of herself for it. Upon sentencing,
I'm sorry. Continue.
no, it's okay if you want to clap, please.
Yeah, but it's true. Like it doesn't justify anything, really. It's just it really isn't. It's so stupid to say, well, because I'm having gender dysphoria, I'm gonna want to just kill people. It's just no, just.
Upon sentencing, Justice Daniel Billings said he did not impose the state's maximum 55-year jail term for Balker because she had no previous criminal conviction and her guilty plea arrived following an agreement her sentence would be capped. Billings said he did not take Balker's struggle with gender identity into account when her sentencing. It does say that too when sentencing her. Oh, when sentencing her.
Just basically, just like I said many times during this article, it's just seek help, people. Just don't go on a killing spree. Don't be Jason from Friday the 13th and just stalk and kill people. Oh man. Okay, so by the way, like, what's the Christmas plans that you have this year?
Some of us already exchanged gifts.
Already?
Yeah.
Wow. You guys don't play around. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I had to wait 5 more days now until I started the gift exchange.
Yeah. Well, some of us already exchanged gifts already.
Oh man, like usually, like I know when I was a kid, I was much more excited for Christmas because I would get all the toys I wanted. But as I gotten older and older and older, it's like, okay, I don't really want toys anymore. It's just, just the gift cards will do. I'll be fine with the gift cards.
For me, I told my family to just give me cash.
Right, like cash or gift cards.
Yeah.
It's like I would rather, find something that I want in the future than just, get something that I might potentially not want.
Yeah, it's easier to get cash than to get a gift that you probably don't even want.
Right, and also I don't want to just, hurt people's feelings when they give me a gift that I don't like that much. It's like, oh my God. It's like, it feels so bad, but like, it's like, oh, you gave me that. Thank you, but no thank you. But you don't really say that out loud, though.
Yeah, what happens when I used to get gifts that I didn't really want is that I would give it as a gift to somebody else. Like, hey, look at the gift I gave you.
Like, oh, wait a second. Did you just return it to the store that I just purchased it from?
No, I would give the gift I don't want as a gift to somebody else.
Right, right. It's just like it's just a hypothetical. It's like, oh my god, how could you do that?
They don't find out. But it's also I say, please just give me cash because that's the gift that I really want.
Oh, that's the gift you do want. I thought you would give it on to me. Nah, just kidding.
But oh man, it's just a lot of Christmas music I've been playing around my parts. Like everywhere, like all the stores have the Christmas music and the trees.
Yeah, I don't really like Christmas music. I don't get me wrong, I don't mind Christmas, but the all I want for Christmas is you bullshit. Oh, I mean, there are good songs, and then there is the stuff that they throw at you, whether you want it or not.
Right, like there are some few good songs that I like for Christmas. Like, for example, of course, Frosty the Snowman and also Rudolph.
There are some good songs.
Tyler, I don't know if you wanted to continue this.
Yeah, I think we got the point of the article. Basically, just don't kill people just because you have gender dysphoria.
No, this is the one we were at earlier. The new evolution.
No. Let's go to a different article. I think we got the point. Basically, they're trying to compare, like, religious fundamentalists to social justice activists. I got the point for that article.
Oh, okay. I don't have any more articles.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Well, let me see. No, not really. Just cleansed my palate not too long ago.
Oh, by the way, have you guys seen the GoFundMe for the Trump roll?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be a scam. I would not do the GoFundMe for the wall. It's got to be a scam.
I think it's a scam too, but it is funny.
Yeah, so far they're at like over, let's see, yeah, $8 million plus right now, and the go is like $1 billion.
Well, the thing is, there's plenty of other people in America that wall. It's just Democrats who don't, it seems.
Right. It's just, yeah, most people, I guess, maybe like the working class and people who are affected by border states want the wall.
Yeah, but I mean, I've even seen Mexican people advocating for the wall in America.
Right. They also have their own little situation with the caravan there, and particularly Baja California.
Yeah, which is also weird. Why is the caravan going all the way to California? Wouldn't it be a lot easier to go to Texas?
It would be, but I guess, they know that California is full of, the the crazy stuff, so that's why they want to go.
Probably. Oh, sorry. I am getting a little bit tired.
Is it really late there? Like, what time is it?
1:20 a.m.
Oh my god, it's like 7:18 p.m. here.
Right here it's 6:18.
Oh, you're an hour behind me.
Yeah, I go by Central Time.
I go by Eastern Standard Time. But should we wrap this up or should we continue on?
I don't have any more articles unless you want to continue with the new evolution deniers. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, we should probably close it right now. Plus, it's really late for him, so we should probably close it for his sake for sleep.
Okay.
Time actually, because I usually live stream on Wednesday between 11:30 and 1:30, which is roughly now. Rin has been on my stream a few times, so this is more or less my normal time.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, I never have time for it.
All right.
Anyway, Madeline, do you want to give a closing statement?
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. It was a really, I really liked the thing we did on the compact, the migration compact. It was really good. And I'd like to thank Tyler Preston for joining us. It was really good fun after that as well.
No problem, guys. And if you guys want to invite me to your live streams, always tell me in private messages, okay? And I'll try to come as soon as possible, if I can.
Oh, you prefer if I send you a private message asking you, then send you a tweet asking you?
Just send me a private message, and I'll try to respond as fast as possible. It depends if I have time.
Okay. So Tyler, do you have any final words? Do you want to talk about any projects you have?
Okay, so my final words are that my Twitter, Facebook, YouTube accounts obviously is Tyler Preston 20, and basically you can find me there. I just do social commentary on the latest social current events and just make sometimes silly videos or sometimes serious. Just if you like that kind of stuff, just follow my channel and of course download my theme song if you can.
Yeah, because he's everybody's friend.
Everyone's friend is Tyler.
I really do like that one. I mean, I can remember, that's a few years ago that you had this different versions of it.
Oh yeah, I have so many versions now. Because people kept contributing to the song.
It's really cool. I mean, hell, I don't have an opening. I'm not nearly as big as you are anyway.
Right.
I really am.
But if you guys want like an MP3, I could give you guys a link when we're done with the live stream. Okay.
Okay. And you don't have any video projects you want to talk about?
For video projects, I'm kind of inconsistent with that. Like, it just comes off the fly. Like, if I feel like a topic is worth talking about, I just do it. Otherwise, I don't really have any consistent schedule right now.
Well, I would like to thank you too for coming. I would like to thank our viewers for watching. This has been Ren Michaelis. Bye-bye, everyone. Ciao.